Hello, and let's get on with it. These are the armor combinations that I would use and recommend using in Gloria Victis. First, it's 4 heavy pieces and 2 medium ones. For mandatory heavy pieces are head and legs. Mandatory medium piece is chest. And then you want 2 heavy and 1 medium in the department of shoulders, gloves and boots. In this case I'm using heavy boots and shoulders and medium gloves. Now this set over, again putting it against a full heavy set, it gives you a bit more stamina multiplier, effectively between 15 and 20%, and 4% more in the damage multiplier. Now this is a very good arena set. I know a lot of players use it in arenas and they are very successful with it. In the field, I would probably prefer to put a full heavy, and I will get to the reasons later. Now if you really want to go into medium armor, then you can use the next set I'm going to present, which is 5 medium, 1 heavy. And let's put it on, as it will take a while obviously. So you don't really want to be using a full medium set. Like, I'm mixing 1 part of heavy. You can add an additional one, maybe one of these 3, or maybe change the head into one of these awesome looking medium with heavy helmets. Well, as you can see with this, my slashing reduction stays the same pretty much, but we're losing even more of the piercing reduction. We're getting some more stamina drain. Well, we're losing stamina drain multiplier, getting stamina efficiency. We got some more damage multiplier, and well, actually we got pretty decent bludgeoning reduction, but the loss of the piercing is it's quite a lot. Medium armor is not very good in this game, but if you don't have the Man of Steel, then yeah, this is probably the set you want to be looking for if you want to get into cluster fights, like on gates or big group fights. Yeah, you should be looking into a set like this, and well, you're gonna be punished by both archers and spears like the Holden spear, very much by not having enough piercing reduction. This is 500, this is about 50% piercing reduction, which means your damage is gonna get cut in half. So compare it to the slashing reduction, where the damage is getting cut in less than a third. That's quite a difference. Because if you put the heavy set on, let's get that on. If you put the heavy set on, and I'm gonna put the heavy shield with it as well, you're losing a lot of damage. Yeah, about 30%, especially with the heavy shield. But well, your slashing reduction pretty much stays the same. Even though I actually switched from the slashing shield into piercing one, your slashing reduction stays the same, about 700 and third, so you're receiving less than a third damage, right? You're losing a bit in the department of bludgeoning reduction, but that's the difference between receiving 50 and receiving well, a bit less than 60% damage. So that's about 17-18% efficiency. That's not that bad. But look at the piercing reduction. Let's just for the sake of the easy calculations, let's say that's 850. And on the previous set, it's 700 on 2 medium pieces, and it's 500 on just on 5 medium pieces and 1 heavy. So in this case, we're receiving 15% piercing damage, and on the first set I presented, we were receiving 30% piercing damage. That's double. And when you put the full medium with just 1 heavy piece, you're receiving 50%, which is more than triple And archers, spears, and sword thrusts. They all deal piercing damage. You really want to be resistant against it. So heavy set for big fights, and especially cluster fights, gates and such. Full heavy set is the way to go. But you're not always warrior. You're not always fighting these big fights, sieges and such. Well, good set, a very good set is full light. Let's switch into that. And obviously change the shield from heavy. You should pretty much never be using heavy shield with the light set. And now, as you can see, well, the stamina drain multiplier is like you're only getting additional 2% only because of the shield. And the same thing with reducing damage. But bludgeoning reduction is good. And both slashing and piercing reductions, well, you're only gonna take away a third of the damage from the enemies. But this set is not supposed to be taking damage. You have a lot of stamina, and well, you should be using it for running around, and especially if you're an archer. This is pretty much the only set you should be using, because when it comes to bows, every medium and heavy piece, they're actually reducing your damage multiplier much more than the melee weapons. And the same thing goes for daggers. So if you want to use daggers or bows, really you should be using full light. And this is a great set for dealing damage, because your damage multipliers stay high, well, highest possible really, unless you reduce the shield from that. And stamina multiplier is also great, so this is a great set for swimming, for example. Whenever you're in trouble, go into water, and anyone who's not wearing full light is going to be at serious disadvantage against you. Well, as you look at it, the slashing reduction, yeah, it's not that good. If someone comes with a sword at you, you're going to be in a big trouble. And sometimes you just want to offset that. And for doing that, I will switch the legs into medium. Sorry, medium, not heavy. Don't put heavy pieces on the medium sets. And legs, in this case, legs into medium, but you can switch any of those, maybe even a helmet, as long as you're having 4 light pieces and 2 medium, and legs become medium, and chest stays light, is good. Let's put the second one on, and let's see what happened to the slashing reduction. It went up from reducing a third to reducing almost half. And that is quite big. That's quite a decent change. And your stamina drain, you only up for 25%, which is not really that bad. And the damage multiplier, 0.95, that's not as significant as well. So yeah, this is a very good combination of armor pieces. Now, these are all top tier armors. Well, they're not exactly +6, because I'll have to switching that to a different one for that. But these are all top tier armors, and this is how it works with them. But what happens when you're using something cheaper? Because sometimes you just don't want to give these things to the enemy. And well, if it comes to the cheaper armor sets, then the full heavy set becomes less advantageous. The cheaper the armor, the lesser the advantages of the piercing reduction, because in full heavy set it's very close to 100, and the closer it gets to 100, every 1% is more and more valuable. It's actually very valuable when it gets closer to 90%. It's really good, every single 1%. And once it's cheaper, it's not really that great. So when you're wearing cheaper ammo, it's actually good idea to mix in some of the medium pieces. Obviously, try to do it the way I showed you. Either change the chest to medium, just chest to medium, and maybe one of the lighter pieces, or only put all medium and only change the legs into heavy and one of the lighter pieces, or helmet maybe. And when it comes to light ammo sets that are cheaper, well, let's put the full medium on again. The reduction, it's only reducing by a third. Now, if you're putting like the very cheap ammo, it's going to reduce the piercing and slashing by about a fifth. So you're receiving like 2/3 or 4/5. It's not really that big a difference. It is difference, yeah, obviously it is, but it's not really that big of a difference. And if you put a very cheap ammo, well, not very cheap, but basically really affordable one, light ammo piece, and then switch like two medium pieces, put two medium pieces in it, you're actually getting the same, if not better, slashing reduction from this full light set of the top tier. And your damage suffers a bit, and stamina, but as you've seen, it's not that bad. So yeah, basically when it comes to light set, it's not that big of a difference if it's a very expensive one or cheap or affordable, let's call it that way. There's not a big difference in this department when it comes to light armors. But when it comes to heavy, yeah, it's like there is a very huge difference between the very good heavy set and the more affordable one, especially in the piercing reduction. And yeah, that's all I should be talking about armor sets and mixing them up. So thanks for watching, and bye.